Welcome to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield here with Kevin O'Sullivan. You watch us together on the Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan, and what a week we're already having, Kevin. I cannot believe the fallout from Sentebale. I'm truly surprised at the chaos that's happening right now. I don't know if it's because I had just settled into Meghan promo mode and I was just waiting to get jars of jam thrown at my face along with whatever else. But I am truly surprised that Prince Harry is having such a crap 2 weeks. What do you think?
I mean, the thing about Harry's, I've been trying to work this out, and in some ways, I say this very cautiously, but I kind of feel slightly sorry for him because he's not a clever man, he's not an intelligent guy, but he's trapped within his own culture, his own privilege, his own background. So he's so dim that he didn't really spot that a bunch of billionaires, quaffing champagne, playing polo in Florida, to raise money for dirt poor black African kids is a really, really bad look. It is the quintessence of white saviorism. And Harry is so thick, he couldn't see that. He's so dumb, he couldn't work that out. Now, we're all for raising money for kids who need it, and Sentebale was a good charity, is a good charity. A lot of kids lost their parents due to AIDS and HIV. A lot of kids themselves have AIDS or HIV because of the problems there in Africa back in years gone by. So it's a good charity, and raising money for it was a good thing to do. But these days, you have to be careful about the way you do that. Because the way Harry was going about it was as if there was some kind of natural pecking order, that the superior people, the people at the top, were so kind that they're going to have a polo match to raise money for those poor little people at the bottom of the social scale. Now, Prince William, for example, is intelligent enough to spot those problems, and he goes to the ends of the earth not to let it happen. Do you remember when they went to the Caribbean, him and Kate, a few years back, and he got corralled into standing in the back of a sort of Land Rover waving at the adoring crowds, and sort of kids trying to put their little local kids trying to put their fingers through a wire barrier to get, and it was a very, very bad look. And William spotted that and he hated it. Everybody spotted it. And he's reorganised royal tours because of it. Harry isn't quite as perceptive as his brother. He's not as intelligent as his brother. Everybody knows that. And so he's been staging these awful fundraising events that look so bad. And still trapped within his own kind of bubble, his own privileged bubble. I think we're gaining a picture now that he has got no idea how to deal with people like Dr. Sophie Chandauka, the chairwoman of Sentebale, who obviously doesn't take any crap from anyone, and is putting this guy, this ginger prince, right in his place. And she obviously said, this is what the heart of this dispute is that resulted in Harry leaving. It is this, that Sophie was very uncomfortable about the way the money was being raised, the fundraising efforts. And she wanted to bring fundraising into Africa, to make Africa the centre of Sentebale's fundraising efforts. Harry rejected that. Oh no, I want to play polo. I want to have champagne with my friends and bring Meghan, and lovely, and it'd be fantastic, raise money, So she obviously has said, look, this is uncomfortable, this is wrong. But Harry can't see it. And we've all seen that terrible moment where all of a sudden Harry brings Meghan along, unannounced, so they didn't quite know. So at the end of the polo match, at the sort of cup presenting moment, there's Meghan on the stage, and then Dr. Sophie trying to get on the stage as well. And it's very, very uncomfortable. Everybody saw it and said, what on earth is going on here? Harry imperiously instructs Dr. Sophie to put out a statement defending Meghan. And she said, quite rightly, well, A, no, I'm not going to do it. And B, if you want to know why, it's because this is Sentebale. We're not a cheerleading operation for a brand Meghan, for a brand Harry and Meghan. That's not what we do. Now, when Harry learned that Dr. Sophie had said, no, I'm not going to put out a statement, what did he say? He said to her, would you care to explain yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, this
apparently
is just...
unpleasant, imperious messages
It's
to
white
her.
saviorism is what it is. It is, I'm the big white chief. And how dare this woman of colour stand up to me? I'm afraid, look, let's call it unconscious, because I think it is kind of unconscious. But what we're talking about here is racism. Unconscious, biased racism. And Harry, quite clearly to my mind, is as guilty as sin of this. I think it is dawning on him and he is horrified. He cannot believe it, but I think he knows it's true. He is in a world of trouble and I have no idea how he can get out of it. Richard Kay wrote in the Daily Mail this week, you know, where is his royal brand now? His royal brand in 1 week flat has been utterly ruined. And by extension, that's not going to do Meghan any good at all. They stand accused of everything they've accused everybody else of. Suddenly, they're the racists. So good luck with that, Harry.
There's a really great article from The Cut magazine that discusses Prince Harry's relationship with racism. And they accuse him of only acknowledging racism when it directly affects him or his family. But otherwise, you know, they say one of the lines from the magazine is, it's telling that Harry didn't take a persistent stand against the British press's racism until the tabloids came after his wife and the problem became personal. Despite Harry's insistence on how much he's learned, Spare, this was their reaction to Spare, exposes his blind spots when it comes to race and the monarchy, and how much his complaints remain focused on his own experience. You know, I think that it kind of is similar to what you're saying, that Prince Harry is so blinded by his own
His entire background, everything about him, his life. He is.
Yeah.
We're all in a way prisoners of our own life stories. A lot of people have the intelligence to step outside of that. I don't think Harry has got that. He can't spot it. Now, why? You know, when they started accusing the British press of having a go at Meghan because of her race. You know, because she's a woman of colour. Absolute crap. Total lies. Absolute lies. It was never racism. Nothing to do with racism. But why was Harry so keen on this? Well, Meghan, her entire life, as far as I can work out, has always found new and imaginative ways to play the victim card. You know, and she sucked Harry into that world. Harry, really difficult for the fifth in line to the British throne, who, you know, was born into this world, a multi-millionaire, will never know, worries about money, will spend all his life in palaces, flying around in private jets. Very difficult for a guy like that to play the victim card. Suddenly, this is a bit of luck. I've got a wife who is a woman of colour. Therefore, she's a victim because she's a victim of racism, and by extension, so am I. I'm a victim too. Hooray! I've found a way to be a victim, which is what Sophie Chandauka is talking about. He said he plays the victim card all the time. Well, after this this furious fallout with Dr. Sophie Chandauka, we are never going to have to hear this nonsense from this privileged young man that he is somehow, I say young, middle-aged man now, that he is somehow a victim. And frankly, looking back on it, how dare he ever have played the victim card? And
Well, you're
how dare he
absolutely
do
right.
that?
Because The Cut found a couple of tweets that I was surprised by. One says, "I think the sooner we all understand that Harry and his wife are not taking a stance against his colonialist family, but are just upset about not being able to participate in the way that they thought they would be able to, the freer we'll all be." Another said, "Meghan and Harry are doing all this not because they want to dismantle colonialism, but because they were not accepted by it. This social phenomenon is interesting and begs the question, what if the royals had embraced them? The public would be cheering for diversity and inclusion, question mark." So, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with those, but I am glad that somebody, I don't agree to the full extent. I don't think there's anything racist about the royal family today, but I do believe that the reason we saw such a meltdown from Harry and Meghan is because they felt excluded. They felt excluded. They were insecure, and that was all that it is. I don't think that there was any. I don't think anyone meant anything mean-spirited when members of the family asked what the baby would look like. Chris Rock did a great piece on it, which ended up on Netflix, one of his shows, about how everybody speculates about what a baby's going to look like. But, there was a pretty petty turn last night when I was just checking out the headlines surrounding this, Kevin. And it was Prince Harry giving one of his friends from Eton, Alex Rayner, permission basically to talk on his behalf. He says, H is very happy for me to speak for him about how he feels about this awful situation. And he says Harry's heartbroken, and it's like he lost his finger. I'd say he lost something, but it's below the belt, and they're probably in a jam jar sitting in the kitchen right now. I don't know if it's his finger, but he also says that he believes some of the accusations from Dr. Sophie may possibly spring from jealousy of Prince Harry's wife, Meghan. Alex told the Daily Mail, "It feels like she had her nose put out of joint because she was not the most important woman of color on the stage." How immature. I mean,
Shocking. It's a shocking thing to say, Kinsey. And let me just say this. I'll tell you, it's a racist thing to say.
that's what I was thinking.
As if women of colour all fight with each other to be the top woman of colour at any event. It's a racist thing to say, a disgusting thing to say as well, demeaning to Dr. Chandauka. She doesn't deserve that. What on earth does Harry think he's playing at? Putting forward his mates, his posh mates, to speak to him. I would have said, if I was advising Prince Harry, and for the right fee, I'm available, by the way, if you're watching Your Majesty or whatever you call yourself.
Well, wait, I didn't want to interrupt you before, but I will interrupt you now. The fact, I don't know if we've had this discussion, and we'll have, and it relates to something down below too in our rundown. But the fact that Harry and Meghan are asking Dr. Sophie to defend them tells me that they are watching every single thing that's said and written about them, Kevin, because that video was not circulated on Inside or Access Hollywood or Entertainment Tonight or those puffy outlets that kiss their butt. That video wasn't circulated there. It was people like you and I that had those conversations about how weird the video was. They are reading and listening to everything. There's your problem. Get a freaking job. You have too much time on your hands.
Exactly right. Get a job and get a life. As I was saying, I would advise Harry, it's too late now, but don't go near this argument. Don't start fighting with Dr. Sophie Chandauka in public because it's already going pear-shaped. What that guy Alex Rayner said is an absolute disgrace. And if I was Harry pretty soon, I would say, well, Alex Rayner said that I entitled him to speak for me. I didn't. Because that is a really bad thing, what Rayner said. Oh, it's about women of colour fighting. Absolutely disgraceful. But, Harry doesn't stand a chance in this fight, in this dispute. because, you know, Dr. Sophie Chandauka is a woman, very obviously a woman of great achievement. She's a lawyer. She's worked for Meta. She's worked for all sorts of top organizations. She's African. She's from Zimbabwe. She's a woman of color.
She's
So
the third highest, her family's the third highest donor for Sentebale.
how can Harry argue with this woman? How can he justify himself getting into a public spat with this woman? He should never have let this guy Rayner go public. Absolutely terrible decision. The latest of Harry's dreadful, dreadful decisions. And as Richard Kay said in the Daily Mail, what price his royal brand now? What price the Sussex brand? Is it worth anything? Because Meghan was busy destroying it, you know, by cashing in and selling out, literally selling her royal self. Oh, buy my spoons, buy my towels. Really tacky, really tawdry. And then this row, frankly, in which, well, it's not frankly, it's a matter of fact, he's accused of racism, bullying, misogynoir, nice new word for us, hatred of black women, you know, the whole lot, mismanagement, everything. So Harry's reputation right now is in the toilet. It has never been worse. So take that, add it to old saleswoman Meg, buy this, buy that, you know, rag and bone lady flogging everything she can on the back of her alleged royal status, which is pretty low anyway. And what an awful couple. What do they think they're doing? You know, so their brand, I would maintain, is at rock bottom and will struggle to recover.
So that wasn't all that Alex Rayner said. He said that he talked about how Dr. Sophie refused to defend Meghan Markle. By the way, I hope to God we see those text messages that Prince Harry sent to her, because Sentebale does acknowledge that they exist, but they told the media that they did not have permission to share the text messages, a spokesperson for Sentebale. So we know that they exist. I am curious to see them. I would love to see them. But Alex Rayner said the chair should never have let that narrative take hold, that Meghan had caused an issue. If that narrative did take hold, then I would argue it is down to the chair to put it right. They could have issued a statement and put a stop to it, but they did not. Why? Again, the whole thing smells. It feels planned, and I suspect that the whole thing could only have come from the chair herself. I think that the Princess of Wales, Catherine, is the perfect example of you can't control the narrative. You can't control the internet. Even if she did step up and say nothing was weird, nothing happened, there would be people that would assume that Prince Harry and Meghan asked her to step in and defend her. The same way that I said to you, I think Ted Sarandos was told by the Sussexes, you need to step out and defend Meghan, after hundreds of people went off about how crappy her television show was.
Hundreds.
Thousands, okay?
Many thousands. Yeah.
So I do think that this is a regular occurrence, that Harry and Meghan ask people to defend them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I don't think that was her role.
Image. Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly polishing their own image. As you say, I think you're absolutely right, Kinsey. They are unhealthily obsessed with themselves and their image and what people write. You know, I've known a few long-term famous people in my life, people like Paul McCartney and they'll tell you, you just have to get to the point where you don't bother with it. You just get on with your life. If you obsess on everything that's ever written, every picture that's ever published of you, that way madness lies. Mm-hmm. And there's something slightly unhinged about these Sussexes right now.
I agree.
Very odd. You know, Harry's spinning out of control. He's got nothing to do now. Was it Hadley Freeman in the Sunday Times this week wrote that he's one of these interesting. He has an interesting new role. He is a member of the strange new breed of the husband of the influencer, and that's basically it.
I mean, that imagine him just following Meghan Markle around, taking her picture with an iPhone. It makes
Yeah,
me want
yeah,
to kill myself.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
hate that for him.
yeah. He's the guy. He's the guy with the camera in the background while his wife flogs stuff. It's not a nice spectacle. And if we go back to, when they first escaped from this country, here over here in Britain,
Escaped.
Brexit and all. Don't forget, they then announced they were going to change the world. The Archwell would change the world for the better. So what have we got? What is it now? 7 years on from their marriage. What is it? About 4 or 5 years on from Megxit. We've got a sort of cheap and tawdry woman selling tat online and on social media, and some guy accused of being a bullying, colonial, white saviour racist with nothing to do in his life. Hasn't really worked out for them, has it?
No, Prince Harry did release a video today for Travelist, celebrating 5 years of Travelist, and I kind of laughed, thinking, I never even think about Travelist as a serious entity, considering the fact that you're the first person to jump on a private plane at every opportunity. So, Travelist is his travel company, their initiative, or their campaigning to change the way we travel, to be more thoughtful of the environment when we travel. And I'm just like, you know what, Harry? I don't know if you're necessarily the right person to front this.
Yeah. Well, this is it. But for both of them, the whole world, or most of the world, has had enough of their rank, arrant hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Do as we say, not as we do. You must go on ecological holidays, vacations. You must be careful about the carbon footprint trail that you leave. But as for us, we'll just get onto private jets.
Yeah.
Never mind that. We'll do what we want to do. We're imperious, if I can use that word. Imperiously instructing us how to behave while they have no intention of following their own orders. We have to follow their orders, but they won't. People are sick of that. Sick of that. And I keep hearing how many zillions of dollars that Meghan's going to make once she really gets into business, with As Ever and everything is up for sale. Well, let's see. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. You can turn popularity into money. Can you turn unpopularity into money?
Infamy.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about Meghan a bit, but I don't want to stray too far from Harry, because I'd like you to respond to this quote from page 6. It says, "This new boss lady approach will certainly be needed if Prince Harry, 40, is to build upon his role as a global statesman." I'm sorry if that made you vomit in your mouth, especially in a
Global
week.
statesman.
Especially in a week when he was forced to step down my ass from his beloved African charity, Sentebale. So talk to me about Harry's odds at being a global statesman while being accused of bullying a self-made, highly intelligent, ambitious woman of color from her chair position, a woman that was on his board for 6 years, so they were familiar with her. And I also want to know, like, on top of that, consider the fact that African Parks Charity is in perpetual trouble, whether it's SA allegations or a woman was trampled and her baby died.
10 people trampled to death only last weekend by a herd
Yes.
of elephants that they released in the wrong place. And as you say, allegations against rangers who work for African parks. This again is a charity that Harry is connected with, it's close to his heart. So everything he touches turns to crap. He's got
Yeah.
the opposite.
So talk to me about his odds at becoming a global statesman. Realistically, what
He's
can
actually
he
become
do?
a
Can he
sort
do it just because of his proximity to the British royal family, or does his reputation affect that?
well, no, he can't become a global statesman. He's more like a sort of global doorman for his wife. He's a bag carrier. That's all he does now. As you say, holds the camera and films her while she tries to flog us some more crap. So he can't be a global statesman. He hasn't got the wherewithal. He hasn't got the intellect. He hasn't got the charisma. He hasn't got the presence. He hasn't got the intelligence. There's no way this guy can be any kind of a global statesman. Carry on with the Invictus Games. That's an excellent project and does great work. I hope you get African parks back together. But you've run away from Sentebale, which I think you were hasty to do, Harry. I think you should have thought about this. You want to set up a charity in your mother's name, you should think about it. You should think about your mother when you hightail it and run. And to go back to Harry, so no chance of being an international statesman. Do me a favour. But to go back to what's gone wrong with Sophie Chandauka, so, as you say, there's this impression that's been left that somehow or other, she's suddenly come along and Harry and the other trustees have gone, oh, she's awful, let's go. Well, no, she's been working there 6 years. As you say, her family are the biggest donors to Sentebale. So she's not fly by night. And I think that clearly their relationship has got worse and worse and worse. And what Harry can't take, because he's a bit of a white saviour in the end, possibly unconsciously biased racist. He's the one, he accuses all the rest of us of having unconscious bias and therefore being racist. I say there's a strong possibility, very strong, that Harry suffers from exactly that syndrome because of his background.
I also want to say, and I don't know how much we've gone into this, but I've heard through Invictus sources, and I wonder how much this has to do with Sentebale too, that Meghan has made decision making incredibly hard. That obviously Harry has to approve everything, but now Harry, while he's sitting there communicating, like you and I communicating one-on-one, Harry can't just say, yeah, that sounds great. He has to leave the meeting, take it back to Meghan, who of course is difficult, wants to make changes, doesn't understand that idea, doesn't like that idea. And people at Invictus behind the scenes are complaining about this entity that is making life a living hell. And I wonder how much that was happening at Sentebale too, where Harry, we know Dr. Sophie tells us she would just show up for a meeting and Harry would be like, this guy's on the board now. And she'd be like, what? Who is this person? You're just your friend? I think that Harry and Meghan are entitled, but I also think that Meghan adds this additional element of, well, I want my voice to be heard. I'm going to have an opinion here. And poor Prince Harry, not really, tiptoes around this woman that he chose to marry, that he voluntarily married, the dictator in heels, and doesn't want to get in trouble with her. So it takes longer to make decisions. They have to change a lot of things that they didn't necessarily want. Look at the fact that it took this woman over a year to produce a new podcast. How long have we been waiting for As Ever to launch? How long did it take for her to transition American Riviera Orchard to As Ever? She's a terrible decision maker. She is not an assertive person, and she's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, exactly right. And Sophie Chandauka, I think, came to the point where she'd had enough of Harry's imperious ways, had enough of Meghan's influence on Harry. This ludicrous decision once when they had a Miami venue all ready to roll, and he suddenly at the last moment said, oh, I want to bring a Netflix crew. They got all these sponsors and companies involved. You can't just bring a major television company to an event and expect all the commercial sponsors to go, oh, that's just fine. It completely changes the dynamic. So if nothing else, he's imperious, but he's also incredibly naive, no idea about the real world. Sophie got more and more fed up with this. And of course, she is now turned into his worst nightmare. Someone who will not take his crap. She won't take it. She is kicking him all over the ballpark right now. He's losing this badly because I think, I can tell that Sophie's one of those people, who also wants her own way. Nothing wrong with that. So you've got a very strong-willed person. but she's good at what she does. She's a great talker, and Harry has got no comeback. I think he feels so hemmed in. Oh my God, people say I'm a racist now. This is the worst thing ever. But I married Meghan. I can't be a racist. All this nonsense. But he's got no way out, and in a really stupid, childish, adolescent fit of pique, he's let this bozo, Alex Rayner, come out. You tell them. You tell them that she's wrong and I'm right. Well, that hasn't worked out at all well. That is really, really a bad look. So he's squirming. He's doing stupid things. He can't handle this situation. His best bet would be to shut up, put up, and back out. But I don't think Meghan will let him do that.
No, I think we would see Meghan defending him if she weren't trying to sell her, tat right now. Really quickly, two more questions before I let you go. Does it surprise you that Page Six reports that Meghan was all set to use Aro at the beginning of this year? All the labels were printed, and then someone had to tell her. They had to sit down and tell her, you can't use this trademark. I mean, the due diligence is how is there such a lack of doing any homework?
She's useless. And apparently, when they went through and said, look, this American Riviera, big trademark troubles. Sorry, you can't go into business. Apparently, she kind of exploded in rage because she cannot take bad news. So apparently, you have to wrap it up and say, well, Your Majesty, or whatever she called herself. The great news is we can move on to a different name.
Right.
Brilliant.
Which she basically, they said she refused.
She maintained that she had as ever all along.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing to say. So,
well, she's not admitting faults, which is what she promised she was going to do in her cute little podcast. I'm going to, I make some bumps along the way. Yeah, but I did like the quote about asked if Markle has reacted to the headlines to brand changes. The brand changes have garnered. The insider replied she is capable of throwing a fit. I feel like, Kevin, that sounds a lot like a lot of other stories we've heard of Meghan Markle.
Oh, really? The tyrant in high heels who reduced grown men to tears and was prone to 5 a.m. tantrums. Both the Hollywood Reporter and Vanity Fair, two very respected publications, no ifs, no buts, said this woman is the bullying boss from hell, who reduces her staff, men, to tears, let alone the women. And also one employee had to go into long-term therapy.
Treat people the way you want to be treated is basically the way I deal with it.
Exactly. She doesn't get that. She's a narcissist. She's so up her own backside, full of herself. Everything is all about her. She will be unhappy right now because the racism, bullying, misogynoir row, the colonial white saviorism row, engulfing Harry, will reflect on her. I mean, she's at the centre of it because, of course, of the awkward video with Sophie. So she's at the centre of this, and it will reflect badly on As Ever and all her other tacky money-making operations and enterprises at the moment. So she won't be happy either.
You're right. She's angry right now. We saw that in the Netflix series when she told the cameras that she was angry that the takeaway from the Oprah Winfrey interview was not her mental health, but the royal racism scandal, which is like, what? What? You knew exactly what you were doing.
Of course she did. Her mental health.
But it does say narcissism when you think about it.
She's look. You got to be slightly careful here. I don't know about her mental health struggles. I don't know how genuine they are. Piers Morgan says they're one big pack of lies and sacrificed his job on the altar of that. Said, I will not rescind that. So a lot of people think, you might think this, Kinsey, but I couldn't possibly comment, that It's not only her race she uses, or her mixed race status she uses to play the victim card. She also conjures up mental health difficulties, mental health issues. Whether or not she's got mental health issues, who can tell? But it's a good way of saying, I'm the victim.
We know that she has all the money in the world to have really incredible resources, and we hope she's found those if that is indeed the case. All right, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. And if you are watching this on a Wednesday, know that on Thursday I am back with Kev on the Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan, and that is on Talk TV's YouTube page. Thanks so much, Kevin. Have a great day.